I believe that we need a new kind of leadership. A new kind of leadership that is going to transform the economy and society at large. Because what we see in the many interactions we have with the organizations we work for and the leaders and business owners we interact with is that there is a huge percentage of people in organizations that are disengaged, even actively disengaged, meaning they feel totally lost, they feel totally disconnected from the organization where they're working. There is no connection with them or between them and the organization anymore. And the second insight is that I see that many leaders who lead these organizations seem to shift from caring and loving parents and friends and partners to rather cold and rather distant leaders who seem to care only about performance, about results. So the question here is, what kind of new leadership do we need? So what is wrong with that current leadership? That same leadership that creates that disengagement, that active disengagement from people. It is a leadership that pushes people to the extremes, where performance for performance is the focus, where people get enormous amounts of stress, where there is enormous percentages of people burning out, and some people even commit suicide. So there is blood on the walls, there is blood in the organization, there is actually blood all over the place. I call this bloodership, leadership that is creating blood in the organization. Where does that come from? Why do we do that? Or why do these leaders do that? It comes from focusing mainly on authority, on processes, on rules, on procedures, on force, to get people to do things. It is pushing people to connect with something that is totally outside of them, which is totally not connected with their spirits, with their souls, with their human beings. All these procedures and rules and authority and things outside of them is not something that people really engage with. And that leads to a mentality or an atmosphere where people go to work totally stressed, disinterested, disengaged, disconnected. And when we speak with these people and we tell them, how was your day? They say, my day really started when we left the company, when we left the enterprise, when we left the factory. How weird and how sick is that? Why would people not be able to really realize themselves while working? The impact of that authoritarian leadership, where the rules and the power and the force and the position of the leaders is used as the way to motivate people, has a total counter effect. So what we see in these organizations is that instead of getting more output, we see less output, because people are demotivated, are distracted, are not engaged, are not at all aligned with the organizational values, the so-called values, the values we have in the organization, and the values these people stand for. These organizations with that old-style leadership see that performance is the objective. So it's performance for performance. And people go to work, get stressed, because what really counts is a performance. Not the individual contribution, not what people individually will contribute from what they think is best for the organization, but the performance that the organization imposes on the people and on the teams in order to get, in the fastest way, to the results. And by imposing that way of working, by imposing that kind of leadership, you get the counter effect. Leaders seem to transform when they go from home, or when they go from the social environment or the private environment to the organizations they lead, into very different human beings, into very different beings. Beings where power, authority, force all of a sudden becomes very important. And where they seem to forget about care and love and connection. So that creates atmospheres, that creates contexts where people feel coldness and distance and disengagement, and they cannot relate to each other. And in that context, people have to perform. In a context where leaders do not really care about their people because they really care about performance, they really care about results, they really only care about objectives to achieve. And they use people as means, and not more than that, just as means, replaceable means to get to these results. I really believe that this is no longer working. And I really believe that there is an interesting paradigm shift, in an economic paradigm shift, an organizational paradigm shift going on, where that bloodership is being replaced by something different. We call that lovership. Why lovership? Because it is leadership where leaders show care and compassion and love. Love for the people in their organization. Love for their organization. It is beyond themselves. It is much bigger than themselves. So it requires leaders that are strong. Strong in the sense not from power and authority, but strong from the principles they stand for, the values they want to bring into the organization, the purpose they defend, what they want to achieve with their organization, and how they want to achieve it together with the people in their organization. So it's a total paradigm shift where from power and rules and procedures we go into principles and values. What are the principles that I as leader stand for in my organization? And what are the values that we want to see in each of you, myself included? Not as something that is posted on the wall, but that is something that we actually do to make our organizational culture become strong and something alive. So these leaders in that new paradigm, leaders in this lovership organization, they will allow people to take risks. They will push people to step out of their comfort zones. Not push them out of their comfort zones, but accompany them to step out of their comfort zones. They will support people to grow, to learn, to discover things they didn't know before. It is not the performance for the performance, it is not the results for the results. It is the performance as a way, as a result of something what the organization stands for. So people will be invited to collaborate, to do things together. Actually, people want to do things together because people don't have to protect themselves all the time, because people are afraid. No, on the contrary, people really feel good. So people come to the workplace every morning with a certain level of happiness, I might say. People come to the workplace motivated. So thanks to lovership, people become heroes of contribution, compared to slaves of rules, which we see in bloodership. This means that people are really proud of what they contribute to in the organization. People create a very different relation with their organization, not so much from a transactional perspective, but much more from I feel that I am important for the organization and I really want to contribute something, and I am being given the place to contribute something in the organization because I feel cared for, I feel respected, and that is actually what each human being wants. In whatever kind of organization, in whatever kind of context, in whatever kind of team. From all the interactions we have on a constant basis with the many organizations we work for, we see that people, even the ones so-called very left-brained, or the engineers, or the ones that are more rational, even those, or maybe I would say especially those, they need to be cared for. So what we see in that lovership compared to bloodership is that people are seen as important contributors to the organizational success. So people boost the organizational success because of the togetherness, the collaboration, and what as an organization together we stand for. Imagine we have more and more organizations shifting from bloodership to lovership, creating from disengagement going into engagement, engagement going into actively engagement or active engagement. Can you imagine the impact this would have on the one hand, organizational performance, and on the other hand, personal joy and satisfaction? We truly believe that the impact is enormous. The economy will transform. The impact on organizational performance and the impact on individual joy and satisfaction is going to be around billions of euros and billions of dollars. So the question I have, why wouldn't we shift from bloodership to lovership?